Hello.
Hello, welcome to Philosophising. My name is Ruby.
Again on Thursday. I'm Nathan.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Are we? Do we change the title, or are we still stuck on aliens as a title?
Oh no, we changed it. Today's title is "How much Teflon should you eat?" The Ig
Ah,
Nobel prizes. Um,
oh yeah. Okay.
and yeah. Um, right. So for those of you who don't know, and we are going to talk about this, so the Ig Nobel prizes are kind of this. So the Nobel prizes are the celebration of kind of what's considered like the most impactful science for humanity. The Ig Nobel prizes are this kind of this celebration of like the weirdest science that is still kind of interesting. But actually, even before we're going to talk about this, we're also going to talk about the other weird science, which is this like weird ass press conference they did about like Tylenol and autism. Um, I was telling Ruby this is kind of like the opposite of the Ig Nobel prizes because the Ig Nobel prizes are like things where you see it and you're like, that sounds really stupid. And then it turns out it's like interesting science versus this is something that sounds like science and then you listen to it and then you're just like, this is very stupid.
And I mean, it's so bad at this point. Like, like websites for satire, like that literally makes fun of
Uh-huh.
this kind of thing. Literally printed it word for word. Like they did. They just took the
They
speech
just
word for word.
they just
And,
put the speech out like, yeah. There's like
yeah.
there's like so many clips of it, including one where he tries to like pronounce acetaminophen 3 times and then just starts calling it Tylenol for the rest of the speech. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
but
mean,
anyway,
so then we were like, actually, I think it is our responsibility as science podcaster streamers to actually just go to the papers
to
and
talk
look at the
about this.
data and
Yeah,
talk about
yeah,
why this is such a difficult thing to study, why it's controversial,
yeah.
and why it's so dangerous for something like this to become politicized and to the point where the FDA now is sending like a notice to physicians around the country being like, hey, you should tell your patients this.
Like,
And that's
watch
so
out
why
for
that's so
Tylenol.
dangerous. Yeah. And like the
Yeah,
first part of this, like I was like, okay, we have to do this. I think it is a social responsibility to do it. So I was like, okay, let me like find the paper. And then I was hit with a paywall and another paywall. And I was just sat there and I was like, God damn it, this is probably why people
no.
don't read the
Maybe
papers
this
because
is
there's
why it's so hard to do this science communication.
yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
not to like be on my soap box again about how publishing is ridiculous and why the paywalls are so annoying and like exclusionary in the annoying way. Um,
The Daily
so
Show had a great take on this, so that I'm gonna put on the in the chat for people to watch. It's also like a hilarious parody. Um,
wait,
but
of
yeah,
the
of
paywall thing
Trump's
or
speech.
the Trump
No, Trump's
speech
speech.
thing? Okay,
Uh-huh.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. So you want to summarize what that speech says, just so that people who are
Yeah,
under a
so
rock
actually I
and
wanted to kind of set the stage a little bit. So this kind of started so like a few months ago, RFK Jr. announced he was like going to find the cause of autism by September. And I think everyone who kind of works in that field was just like, what? Okay, fine. But according to him, he did. And the next update we got was at Charlie Kirk's memorial, where Trump was like, oh, we're like gonna find like tomorrow, like we're really excited to announce we've like found the cause of autism, and everyone was like, what are you talking about? This is a memorial service. But they did, in fact, schedule this like press conference the next day where he talked about autism. Um, and essentially, he announced like 3 things. One is that like the government is doing this new kind of data science initiative looking at autism. The other one is that they think that Tylenol or acetaminophen actually in pregnancy, when you're exposed to it in pregnancy, um, causes autism. And the third thing that they announced is that they are thinking that another cause of autism is a deficiency of folate in the brain. And so they are instructing the FDA to approve this drug that's basically a supplemental source of folate to treat autism. And I think that one is actually kind of the most scientifically interesting part of this, which we'll get to. But yeah, I guess the other stage setting thing that I just wanted to do is so like the whole reason they're talking about this is based on this idea that like that autism has been like increasing, and they're like, okay, we're going to try and find why the autism is increasing. And I think one of the, just to remind folks, like if you talk to anyone who does autism research, I think the first thing that they'll point out is that it really has not, the actual rate of autism has like not increased significantly at all. It is diagnosed more, and that is entirely due to the fact that we are better at finding it, and to a certain extent, we've reclassified things. So I think honestly, whenever anyone talks about like why is autism increasing, we should just show them this graph. So this is the number of people in the school system who are diagnosed, who are classified as having intellectual disability versus the ones who are classified as autism. And so basically, you can explain a lot of the increase just by this switch in labels.
Yeah.
It's just like what we call the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, and also like psychologists come together every couple years, like 10 years, every 10 years, I think. And then they
Mhm,
rewrite the DSM, which is like
mhm.
the diagnostic like rule like book for the field. And then they all agree it's like, all right, these are all going to be called blank now. We're just going to gather them under this umbrella term. But I mean, that being said, there are more people being diagnosed. Like the number wise, it is
Yeah, the
happening.
number of
It's
people
just
who have an autism diagnosis
being
has increased.
reclassified.
Yeah,
No.
and like there are probably some very small kind of drivers of increasing actual rates. Like, so we know that people tend to have children at older ages now, and we know that like the age of your parents does seem to modulate like your chance of having autism. But these are things that like really would be causing just like a 1% change or something in like the amount of autism cases. Um,
No.
I think the other thing that I wanted to highlight, and this is kind of like what RFK and Trump say, kind of when people point this out, is they're like, oh, just like look around. Like if you go into a classroom, like now you see like children, like you see autistic children, and you didn't used to see that in like the 1970s. Um, and that is actually because before 1990, most of those kids were in like segregated schools and programs. And so it was actually like so the visibility of autistic people has increased because we started doing desegregation essentially. And that didn't really start until we had the Individuals with Disabilities Act in 1990. So, which is
I was gonna
when
say
I was
when the
reading,
ugly laws were still on and people
right,
just have to
yeah,
hide them at home.
right. Like, I mean, it's kind of crazy that like we are the first generation that actually like were legally required to be able to like go to regular schools. Um, like,
Uh and I mean, just as a reminder, like most versions of autism, like there has not been a way to like identify a specific gene that causes autism.
mhm,
Like even in a pretty rare disease like the one I work with in my lab, that is a single gene that causes autism like symptoms. Like for that to happen, we like it's really highly studied, but like the majority of autism doesn't come down to like one or two genes, and you know what I mean, it's like a broad, like it's a bunch of things
Right.
happening a lot of times, and you can have a perfectly not autistic person have very similar gene expressions and not have symptoms at all. So like it's the difficulty of studying autism, right? That's one of the
Yeah.
huge difficulties of studying it. And then and it's not completely familial either, right? Like you can have siblings, like one that's autistic and one that isn't, and they have same parents, like they like pulled the same lotto
Mhm.
from the gene pool. Like it
But I will
happens.
say, yeah, I will say like one of the reasons that we're pretty confident that like the rate of autism isn't increasing because of some environmental thing is because we do know that like it is highly heritable. So it seems like there's a whole bunch of genes that are involved in autism, but it seems like probably around like 60 to 90% of your chance of having autism or not is genetically determined. Like you can do studies where you use like twins and siblings to just like estimate like how genetic is a particular trait versus how environmental. And what those pretty consistently tell us is that autism is highly genetic, even if we don't know exactly what all the different genes do.
Yeah. And also why it's really important when you're doing these kinds of studies to do sibling controls. Like it we're
Hmm.
going to go into why I think the sibling control is really important, and why some of these studies are problematic because they don't account for the siblings. And
Yeah,
yeah, so shall we get into it? I feel like the biggest
sure.
paper that is being cited is this one here, which I will share my screen. Share screen. Nope, that's not sharing screen. This is sharing screen. Uh, okay, share. Can y'all see this? Can y'all see
Let
this
me
screen?
put it in. Right.
Ah, yeah, there
Mhm.
we go. Okay, cool. This is the Alk. Oh, I don't even know how to say this name. Sorry for butchering your name. Alquist and from
Alquist, yeah.
yeah, Lee. Okay, so basically, here this is in the abstract. They actually like put the numbers out for. So not exposed is the first number, and then exposed for the second number. And so this was a study done on over 2 million children between 1995 and 2019 in Sweden. So fairly large population, like quite long um, study, and they checked the children like 10 years later, so at like 10 years of age, and they compared children who were exposed in when their mother was pregnant to acetaminophen and those who were not, and they found
How do
that
they know
the
if the mother took acetaminophen or not?
self-report.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the so one of the problems with this is that first is self-reporting. Second is that um should the like sorry. So like the like self-reporting is one of the problems, but another one of the problems is that like if the if the kids um if the kids like correlation based um
Hmm.
because like when they analyze the full sibling matches, like with the where the parents like, oh, like this sibling I had, this sibling was exposed, this sibling wasn't, then this all falls apart, right? And
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
that's a huge control so I'm like, okay, so only when you don't compare siblings on their own, when you just broadly compared everyone,
And so
does
the concern is there is that kind of you have some genetic thing that predisposes to autism and also to taking Tylenol in pregnancy.
it could be anything else, right? Like your mom could be taking Tylenol. You take Tylenol for any kind of pain. You could have a headache, you could have
Hmm.
fever, you could
Yeah,
have any kind of other thing during the pregnancy. You could have, an infection. You could have like the flu.
right.
You could have all kinds of things that normally would be like, ah, I'll take some Tylenol. So
But is
basically
that
that's
like
what was
is that
happening,
the
right?
reason? But is that the reason that kind of you're saying about these sibling controls being important is because you have to control for kind of like the genetic background?
Yeah, yeah. Sibling control for the background, but also the other thing is like you can't control for like all the maladies of daily maladies that are happening
Right.
in the world, right? Like if you narrow down to like all these mothers
Mhm.
during their pregnancies, how many of them were infected with a particular virus strain? Do you know what I mean? Like maybe they just all got the
Right.
flu, and then because they had the
And
flu, they took Tylenol. Like maybe the flu had a bigger influence on the actual like outcome of the child and autism. Do you know what I mean? I'm not
yeah,
saying that's what happened.
we actually have some evidence that that's true. So like one of the ways, if you want to have like rodent models of autism, one of the ways that you do it is actually by activating like giving the mother some immune stimulus in pregnancy.
Yeah.
And that does also seem to increase the chance of getting like autistic rats. Um, the like so yeah, I think so it's about also like okay, most of like Tylenol isn't really a thing that people take for fun. So like usually like if you're
Something was
taking it,
happening.
it's
You have
like because
pain or
you're taking it in
inflammation, something like
response
that.
to something else that happened. Um,
Correct. So
yeah.
like something else was going wrong. There's some other underlying malady of some sort that made you take
Mhm.
the Tylenol. Like no one is like control. It's hard to control this, right? Because like to do a controlled study of this, you would need like 50% of the women pregnant taking this blindly, a blind pill that may or may not have acetaminophen in it. And like, do you know what I mean? Like you can't
Mhm.
retrograde actively do this, and that's not what happened here, right? They just
Yeah.
asked women to report if they took acetaminophen during this time. So whatever ailed them, could also actually be the cause. Not saying it
Yeah.
is.
I'm
It
also
is a
just
correlation,
yeah.
right?
It's also like so one of the things that's kind of like a problem in emergency medicine is that people don't really know what drugs have acetaminophen in them. So it's pretty common to see people overdose on like acetaminophen because they take like cough syrup and like a painkiller when they're sick, and both of them have acetaminophen in them. And so for that reason, like I also just kind of wonder like how reliable are these self-reports? Like it seems like people don't know enough about what has acetaminophen to avoid like people are so confused about what has acetaminophen in it that they like literally poison themselves. So like that also makes me wonder like how good are these self-reports at
Yeah.
actually reporting what they took?
Yeah. So like after this huge study, their biggest
Hmm.
finding was is here. So they found that those who were exposed after 10 years of age, after they were exposed, 1.3% had autism, and sorry, what if they were not exposed? 1.3% got autism, and then 1.5 would get it. Sorry, this I'm confusing it. Sorry, after
Hmm.
10 years of exposure, if you didn't get exposed to acetaminophen, only 1.3% of that population got autism. If they were exposed in utero, then 1.5% got autism. And then across ADHD and also general intellectual disability. So this would be a zero point 0.2 difference, 0.2% difference here, and a 0.4% difference there, zero point 0.4 to 0.8,
Hmm.
and then the 0.1, 0.7 to
Hmm.
0.12%. So like a fraction of a percent difference out
Hmm.
of 2 million kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then also it went away when they did the sibling controls.
Hmm. And so kind
And
of
like
so it was a statistically significant effect, but it was very small, it sounds like. And then when you do better controls, it goes away.
yep, pretty much. If you do controls
Hmm.
within the same mother with multiple siblings, like all of this falls apart. And that literally is
Right.
this is literally the study that's being touted and I guess misinterpreted. You guys can read it yourself. Like here, here's numbers like males, females, like you know, and also these are just like Swedish babies from 1995 to
Yeah.
2019. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
Yeah,
and so the sibling control effect, like that kind of makes me think that what's going on. I'm curious if you think it's the same thing. It's like, okay, so these families have something genetic that predisposes you to use Tylenol in pregnancy and also predisposes you to have like a slightly higher risk of autism. And then, so therefore, if you compare kind of the Tylenol users against the non-Tylenol users, you're selecting for these people who have this particular genetic marker that's also associated with autism. But if you're comparing the siblings against themselves, they both have the marker. So they're kind of, you're controlling for that. And then you don't see any additional risks of
yeah.
autism.
Yeah, and they also didn't show a dose response association. So the dose response, which
Hmm.
is what
Mhm.
actually is quite convincing to me. Usually, use like if you get higher dose, like more doses of it, you get a higher symptom score. And in this case,
Mhm.
they saw that, right? Like people that were like had higher exposure had more uh, a higher probability of being diagnosed. But that falls apart again. It's like here in like the first paragraph of the discussion, they're like, when you do the sibling controls, it falls apart. And then you're like,
I I feel like I'm slightly joking, but this could also explain it. I wonder if just like the autistic people are better at knowing what medications have acetaminophen in them. Like
um,
I could see it. Just like
yeah, but okay, but like keep on reading. Like it says, the results of the study indicate the association between acetaminophen during pregnancy and neurodevelopmental disorder is a non-causal association.
Mhm.
It's not causative. It literally says the word. It
Yeah,
doesn't cause it.
which is what they say in that paper. They're like, oh, because of the sibling data, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Um,
And this
yep.
is the paper that is being cited by the fucking ah. This is the
Yeah.
paper. This is which is why I'm showing you
Like
the paper. Like this
yeah.
is the science. This is what the science is telling you. The 2 million people, like like, oh, they did a study on 2 million people. I'm like, yes, yes, they did. Here is the paper about 2 million.
To
And
me, this is
we
like
opened it. It's not behind a paywall now. Here it is. Like, anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Nate. That was
yeah,
my
to
part.
me this is like it's like I mean I think it's also like so the question that I had is like why did they pick this paper that says like why did they decide to pick acetaminophen to do this? Like and so like I mean it's very strange politically. So RFK has been associated with this group called Children's Health Defense, which is an anti-vaccine group that has like put out a lot of things about how vaccines cause autism. So everyone is expecting when he did this to be like, it's the vaccines. And then like actually they were kind of freaking out because he didn't blame the vaccines. Like they were just like, wait, hang on, what the hell? Um, which is I mean, it's also not vaccines, but I think it is interesting that they like like if you wanted to blame an environmental thing for autism, this Tylenol is not the strongest thing that you could pick. Like if I was going to do this, I would say like certain kinds of
Lead?
anticonvulsants. We use those.
Oh,
What?
I was gonna say lead. Lead
Yeah, maybe
poisoning.
lead. Yeah, maybe lead. I mean, I would like also like just like valproic acid or similar other anticonvulsants. These actually, again, are things that we use to like make animal models of autism. And so we have much better evidence that those medications actually have causal like links to it. They're very small causal links in people, in part because generally we're advised not to use them in pregnancy. But it's interesting. I think part of it is kind of like the Tylenol is seen as something that's like a choice to use versus something that's like medically necessary, and so it kind of comes with this extra aspect of moralizing. It's common, like it's a very commonly used thing that people recognize, but this is honestly just like some weird political stunt. Is like
Yeah.
the
I was gonna
yeah.
say it's a political like like the song and dance that will like manipulate complex science and like unresolved questions in the field and make it like ideological for their needs. Do you know what I mean? Like they're using it for like this anti-institutional, legal, financial, and also guilting women to just like endure pain during pregnancy. Like
Yeah.
this is um
Right.
this
I mean,
really
that's
hurts
been
because yeah, now you're gonna have pregnant women who are scared to take acetaminophen, like, and
right.
endure fevers and pains and stuff when
Hmm.
it's unnecessary because they want to be a good mom. Do you know what I mean? Like this is how
Yeah.
you and like this was quickly rejected by pretty much every major medical organization and like autism advocacy. Like everyone's like, no, this is not the
Hmm.
cause of autism.
Yeah.
Please take your acetaminophen. And yet the FDA sent out a letter to all the physicians in this country being like, oh yeah, by the way, this is the thing that we're worried about now, so you should tell your patients. And I was,
Yeah.
what is
Which like
happening?
I kind of feel like no one is actually gonna do that because like also like you have like the American colleges like OBGYNs is saying like just like no, that's not true. Actually, it's better to like treat fevers in pregnant women because that's bad for the baby too to have this like an
Yeah,
untreated high fever. Like
yeah.
so I feel like they're
Unfortunately,
not actually gonna do it.
now I know, but unfortunately now instead of being like, haha, that's hilariously not true, now it's a controversy, and and
Yeah,
to err on the side of um like safety, like
yeah.
now moms are not going to do it. Do you know what I mean? They're going to get guilt tripped, or like their people around them, their husbands, their parents, or whatever, are not going to give them acetaminophen now, like what when they're in pain,
Hmm. Yeah.
when it
I
is
think
currently
like
one of the safest ways to like um give
yeah. I mean, I think that was one
ah,
of the things I was getting at is like there is this kind of like almost sort of like misogynistic moralizing about it too, and that it's like it's something that like you can blame it on these moms for like being selfish, basically, versus like for other drugs that are actually more associated with autism, it's just like harder to do that. Like people wouldn't be like, oh, why did you take an anticonvulsant during pregnancy? Because like it's just harder to make that sound like a personal moral choice versus with Tylenol you can make it sound like these moms are like making a selfish choice that like hurts their baby and they shouldn't be able to do that and like it kind of gets into all these like weird shitty attitudes they have about like like bodily autonomy and
yeah. And
like
on the
just
DL,
not caring about women. Yeah.
yeah, on the DL, I also think this is so that RFK and his crazies can win lawsuits, but like
Hmm.
Tylenol might settle lawsuits because they don't want to be in the hubbub
Hmm.
of this crazies, and someone is pocketing like somewhere someone is making a lot of money right now because of this
That makes
crazies.
sense. Yeah.
I know.
I
I
also
just
wonder how much of it is like RFK needed to save face because he was like, by September, we're gonna know the cause of autism. And then people are like, September's almost over. What's the cause of autism? And then he had to just be like, Tylenol. Uh,
yeah,
like
they're like
he couldn't
search
be like,
high
oh,
and
never
low.
mind, this is harder than we thought it was. like,
Yeah, they searched high and low. Like literally they looked everywhere and these are the papers they came up with, and even the paper they did come up with, I showed you, it doesn't say the thing that they're saying it. Like you know what I mean? You're gonna like believe a politician who interprets this science paper over reading it with your own eyeballs, or do you know what I mean? Like I can't.
yeah. It is kind of good shibboleth for like, okay, what health people should you believe? But yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah. Actually, speaking of people making money, I wanted to talk about the second weird part of this press conference, which honestly actually makes more scientific sense. So in addition to the Tylenol, they also announced that they were approving this drug called let me look up the name. Oh yeah, leucovorin for autism treatment. And basically they were going to direct the FDA to make autism an indication for leucovorin treatment. Um, but I also wonder if they're like getting money from this. Um, but it is kind of scientifically interesting. So I was diving into this, and um, the gist of it is that leucovorin is a form of folic acid, which is an essential vitamin that we need. It's actually absorbed through a different pathway than normal folic acid is, and it's actually used in many cases. It's used in cases where people's ability to absorb their primary folic acid pathway is compromised. For example, in some people who are getting cancer treatment, that happens. Um, so that's its current use. And what they pointed out, which is actually a pretty interesting paper, is that a lot of autistic people seem to have antibodies to their own folic acid receptors. Um, and that seem to kind of maybe prevent the folic acid from being transported into the brain efficiently. And so there's been some studies showing actually something like 70% of autistic children have these folate receptor and auto antibodies compared to maybe like 5 to 15% of neurotypical children. And so the hypothesis, which has been around for a while, it's not a new thing, is that kind of autism is associated with this folate, with what they call like cerebral folate deficiency, so difficulty getting folate into the brain. And there have been a few small studies, which I can put the link in the chat, suggesting that if you treat these children with leucovorin, they see some improvements in communication ability and just kind of overall like intelligence and behavior, presumably because their brain can get more folate into it.
So
I
can
think,
you
yeah,
just
go
take
ahead.
can the mothers just take a shit ton of folic acid and like overwhelm like what the immune system can take care of?
Hard to say. I think it's probably not very efficient.
Yeah.
Because so basically if you have receptors blocking these transporters, kind of your ability to transport folic acid into the brain is probably very limited. Like there's going to be a certain, like basically you have very few transporters available to actually do that. So even if you have a very high concentration of folic acid, it still is only going to get into the brain very slowly. Um, and
Got
so
it.
that's why they're interested in this thing that is like an alternate pathway for it. I'll also say, so it's like, it's not clear that this one is happening during pregnancy. So it seems like they're also looking at this kind of during early childhood. So it's not clear when these autoantibodies start forming, although probably during young childhood, because people don't really start to form their own antibodies until they're like a couple months old at least, right?
Got it.
Yeah. So I think, but honestly, I think this is like honestly pretty interesting science. I think the really interesting thing is like how stark the difference is between the neurotypical and the autistic people in terms of the prevalence of these. And of course, this is just like a couple of studies. Like, so I think the weird thing about this is like these are not like FDA clinical trials like the way that you would use to approve a drug. This is like kind of these random studies that they found, and now they're kind of telling the FDA to override their normal process. Um, the strange thing about that is, so they're actually trying to get this leucovorin approved for cerebral folate deficiency, which is considered like a rare neurological condition. But when you look at all their press releases, they're talking about how this is going to be used as a treatment for autism. And so it's kind of interesting. They're not trying to get it approved by the FDA as a treatment for autism. I think because like they think that the FDA scientists would just be like, that doesn't work. Like you have to like like go through clinical trials, but they're doing this weird thing where they're trying to get it approved for like cerebral folate deficiency, and then
Yeah.
claim that cerebral folate deficiency is like the cause of most autism, and therefore they have a drug for autism.
Yeah, or use like an off-label like approval
Yeah,
for it, and then use it off-label,
but
right?
yeah,
That
I mean,
happens
they're
all the
trying to
time.
get it approved on label for cerebral folate deficiency.
No, 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 no. Like when a doctor like prescribes it, they can prescribe it off-label. Like this is for this. You don't have
Yeah,
this, but
yeah,
we think it could work for this, so we'll prescribe that
yeah.
off-label. And that is under the
But
discretion of physicians to do that,
yeah,
right?
and you can do that now, like that,
Yeah,
like right now you can go and like get leucovorin just prescribed to you or your kid for like whatever reason. But
yeah.
the interesting thing is like they are trying to get this officially approved by the FDA, like as an approved treatment for this thing. Um, yeah, but so the studies are really weird. It doesn't actually meet like the standard of evidence that like you would need to say like this is a treatment for autism
Do we
under
lose? Yeah,
normal
okay.
conditions. Um, but
Sorry. I
I
think
do
I
think it is
lost
scientifically interesting.
oh,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
no,
I was
that's
saying
cool. I'm
like
back, I'm back, I'm
so
back.
so like yeah. So I was saying that like I think that like it doesn't meet the standards that like you would use it to get a drug approved as like a treatment for autism under like normal conditions, like through the normal FDA process. But I do think it's very scientifically interesting. I do think it's the really interesting thing to me is that when you look at these autoantibodies, so like everything else that we know of that's associated with autism, it's generally like a bunch of things where it's like, okay, if you have it, you have like a 99% chance of having autism, but it only accounts for like 0.1% of the cases of autism. So there's a lot of like rare mutations that are like that. Or it's something like the paper that you were talking about, where it's like, okay, if you have this, you have like a your chance of autism is increased by like 0.01%. So generally, so it's either like things where it's like almost certainly causes autism, but almost no one has it, or a lot of people have it, like a lot of autistic people have it, and a lot of non-autistic people have it, but it's like 1% more common than autistic people. Like those are generally the two kind of biological like correlates of autism we find right now. This one is kind of interesting because it seems to be common in the autistic population and pretty uncommon in the neurotypical population, which I think is quite interesting.
No, that is cool. I mean, I'm excited to
Like,
hear like genuinely if we make headway on how autism occurs, like what causes it. That would be an amazing thing. That's a great find for neuroscience. I'm totally for that. I'm just against the politicalizing of like this because
mm-hmm,
this is
yeah,
neuroscience, right? Like they're stepping
right,
into my
mm-hmm,
lane and
mm-hmm,
like making it, like it's making it sound like we're just sitting around twiddling our thumbs, like we're not actually trying to figure this out like on the day to day.
like before you mean, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, like it kind of like it's insulting to the neuroscience field who've been working on autism for years and like we're
mm-hmm,
not just being like, we can't find anything, like we genuinely are
right.
trying really hard and haven't found anything yet.
It's not like no one has bothered to try and figure out what
Yeah,
causes
it's not like
autism.
it wasn't a priority of ours. Like we were studying this. Like we were
Yeah,
trying.
yeah,
We're doing our hardest and we're telling you it's complicated and you can't, like you
right.
can't
And
just
I
announce.
think this is a misconception that people have also when you talk about vaccines. People are like, why has no one studied like the role that vaccines play in autism or something? And it's like, actually, we did.
We
So actually,
studied the
like in
crap out of
California, for
it.
yeah, yeah, and like we found that they don't cause autism. And then that's why we kind of stopped talking about them. I mean, similar with Tylenol, with IVF, there's this whole list of things where scientists really were like, yeah, I guess that could cause autism. Let's see if it does. And then like the answer was like it pretty clearly doesn't. And then so we stopped talking about it.
Yeah, and what a huge breach of like ethics, like scientific ethics to not report. Do you know what I mean? Like we would report that
Mhm.
shit. Like we would like people would whistleblow that so fast if we figured out it caused
Like if they found
autism.
something that caused autism and like
Yeah,
didn't
we're not trying to
report it.
hide that
Yeah.
shit. Yeah, we would report it immediately and get a really awesome paper out of it. Like we are trying.
Right. Uh-huh.
um, I thought we should
And
end
it's like
with
also
oh
it's like you're this is a case also where you're not really dependent on the companies because you can do studies like the one that you said. So for a like and even if you don't want to rely on self-report, you can even like collect urine samples and you can measure like how much of these different chemicals people have been exposed to. You can look at like what pathogens do they have antibodies to, which tells you like what vaccines they've gotten. And so basically anyone who like basically anyone who wants to can do these studies. Like there's no way to really like suppress it if these things were causing autism.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyway, yeah, so
we
I'm confused.
are
Like, as
so
a
sharp.
scientist, I'm confused why they didn't just do like the folate thing. Like, if they had done the folate thing, I just would have been like, cool, that was a cool science update. I feel like I learned some stuff. Interesting.
Yeah,
It's like such a better hypothesis than the acetaminophen part, honestly. Like,
yeah, yeah. I mean, ugh, it's okay. They're not scientists. That's why. That's why we're scientists, and that's why we're doing this
mhm.
outreaching
Yeah.
business. Okay, I thought we should end quickly with a quick hits of Ig Nobels, but we might come back next week and go into details of of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Ig
So this was
Nobels that
what we
we're
were
really excited
originally
about.
thinking of talking about, which is these awards for like the weirdest but most interesting science.
Yeah, so Ig Nobel happened last week, which is I guess one of the highlights of the year for us, and like we're really excited about it, and we usually spend the whole stream on it. But then the Tylenol thing came up, and I was like, I think we need to talk about that. um, so we can come back next week with like more detail, but let's do a quick hits like sound. You want
Sure.
to do your first one, Nate?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, sure. So like if you want to lose weight, like how much Teflon do you think you should put in your food?
I think you can. It's pretty much inert, right? So you just like poo it out.
Hmm. Yeah. But
So as a
like what
bulking
is
agent,
the
right?
optimal like what is the optimal ratio of food to Teflon?
Ooh. I mean, if you make it 50% of the bulk, does that mean you eat half the calories? Is it like
Yeah,
fiber?
yeah, yeah. So in, like if you like replace half the food with Teflon, then it has only half the calories.
Yeah, you can't
But
really
the
taste
winners,
it. Yeah.
right? But so the winners of the Ig Nobel Prize in chemistry were this one, which is called tetrafluoroethylene ingestion as a way to increase food volume and hence satiety without increasing calorie content. And so polytetrafluoroethylene is the chemical name for Teflon.
Yeah.
Um, and they say exactly what you said. Like, so Teflon is actually completely biologically inert. Um, and it doesn't taste like anything. It essentially just does not interact with any biological systems. Um, and they argue that kind of for taste and texture while reducing caloric consumption, adding 1 part Teflon to 3 parts food is the optimal ratio to make lower calorie food.
Ah, so like
Um,
a quarter amount.
yeah. Hmm. And
Ah,
they actually did this with rats, and they showed that like it wasn't toxic to the rats, and the rats seemed fine and happy with eating the Teflon. And
yeah.
so the introduction to this paper is kind of wild. They're like, we have 0 calorie drinks, but why don't we have 0 calorie food? And then they're like, Well, we made zero-calorie drinks by replacing all the sugar with other stuff. So to make zero-calorie food, we just need to replace all the food parts with Teflon. Um,
Ooh, like the particles. Um,
like yeah, just like basically their argument is that if you only ate flavored Teflon, you could make like zero-calorie food.
yeah, Teflon is just one of those things. It's like a chemical that Teflon itself is fine, but like the byproducts of Teflon to make it is horrible for the
Hmm.
environment and horrible for animals and stuff. So like it still makes it gives me pause to put it in my body,
Yeah,
even though I know like in my mind it's gonna be fine. It's just because it's like,
yeah. But like
but on
so
the
is
other hand,
all agriculture too.
yeah,
Like,
that's true. On the other hand, I will also eat konjac, which is totally something I've been replacing a lot of my pasta and noodles with. And I will
mhm.
replace konjac, which has 0 calories and it's bulky. And I was just like, why not eat more vegetables? Replace
Yeah,
a quarter of your food with like vegetable, like with like lettuce, which has very little calories, like the
yeah.
bulk,
That
and it would
so
do
like
essentially
that.
the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. Like that was my thought reading this paper, honestly. Like so like I mean I actually at the start of this year I bought this like giant bag of psyllium fiber, which like also makes you feel full but doesn't have any calories in it because your body can't digest it. And like I was like, okay, this seems like it's basically doing the same thing, but is probably like also more acceptable for people to put in their food than like Teflon powder. So like why not just use that? It does taste like stuff, and I guess it is more biologically active than the Teflon. Like if you eat too much fiber, you get diarrhea. But I feel like it's basically like when you put it in that context, this is kind of something that people have been doing for a while too.
Yeah,
Um,
I was gonna say in before like processed foods, we had unprocessed foods, which was highly
mhm.
fibrous and required a lot of
Yep.
chewing, and we would eat so much fiber. Do you know what I mean? Like we would eat a lot of bulk
Yeah.
to get enough calories. But now that we have
Hmm.
processed our food so that it's easier to digest, we don't actually have to like chew and digest as much now. And so now we're kind of
Right.
in reverse adding bulk into it so that we would
Hmm.
it would make our bodies take longer to like extract the calories, and it's just
Yep.
like we went forward and then now we got to go back a little.
Yeah. And it's like I mean, I think like I'd say like okay, the fiber is actually more biologically active than the Teflon, but in some ways that's good too. So like one of the really interesting things about fiber is that we can't digest it, but there are bacteria in our gut that can use it. And so one of the reasons that kind of a lot of nutritionists actually say most modern Americans are actually deficient in fiber is because it seems like it does have some biological activities that are beneficial to us.
Yeah. I really liked the one about smelly shoes. There was one
Uh-huh.
called
This
the
shoe rack one?
ergonomics,
Yeah.
yeah, shoe rack design, and it talked about how, like, no one, like, if you're in a sweaty or sticky environment like India, or like just anywhere where it's really humid, and we wash our clothes a lot, but we rarely wash our shoes, and so the shoes
Hmm.
become this like stinky bacteria filled thing that sits in the doorway, and like no one wants to use it because it smells bad, and that they
And so
should
the argument
design
is
it
that
better.
people don't want to put their shoes in the shoe rack because their shoes smell bad.
Yeah.
Is that like the core finding of this paper or?
Well, it wasn't even
Hmm.
experiment. It was a review. It's a review on all the
Hmm.
designs that exist for shoe racks and how they should take into account the smelliness of it.
The fact that the shoes smell bad. Okay. So they're
Yeah.
arguing that
And
like this is kind of an engineering problem that hasn't been addressed well by the
correct.
current shoe racks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they like went through all the current products. There are different kinds of shoe racks, different ways of desmellifying shoes. And like the first figure is likeness of. Oh wait, hold on. What am I doing? I can share my screen again because that's a thing. Where is? Let me show the screen. Share. Can you see that? Is that kind of small? So
Yeah,
this
let
is
me
the
add it.
paper on the ergonomics. This is actually from a book, a literature review on the ergonomics of shoe rack design. Um, in the first figure, it's about like, the likeliness of respondents in using a new product, which also solves the stinky shoe problem. The current existing things in the market, which is like the price of them and like how it makes it less stinky.
So we've got some like UV disinfection things. What's the thing at the bottom? Like
This one is,
the purple
I think it's
thing.
a light. I think that one is
Oh,
is a SMPS, UV
oh,
cardboard
switch mode power
enclosure.
supply.
Yeah, so it's just like literally a UV light that you can put the shoes in and like decontaminate them with UV
Hmm.
light. Um, and then like what happens when you expose it for 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes, and like when the burn rubber smell comes on, basically after
I
four
love this.
minutes,
I love this.
average burnt rubber smell.
I love this chart where it's like the columns are exposure time, foul smell from shoes, and smell due to UV treatment.
So basically,
Um,
you kind of want like 4 minutes, but not more than that, so that it doesn't smell like burnt rubber.
I see.
Like
Yeah.
it's like the longer you put in, the less stinky smell, but the longer you put in, the more burnt rubber smell. Like you want to find
But like if you
where,
do it for like 6 minutes, you completely get rid of the foul smell from shoes. So maybe you want to do that like, occasionally.
yeah,
But like,
and that's the paper. I was like, this is hilarious. It's dude,
and then
this
it's
is
like
just this
the
one
end.
guy
Yep.
with like stinky roommates or something. I'm gonna write
Who was compelled.
a paper about it.
Wow.
And my other favorite one. Oh, actually, do you want
Oh
to
no,
do one?
you can do
And then
your other
I
favorite.
guess
Yeah.
I can do my last one. Okay, so my foul one. The paper. Oh wait, is it
Cowan,
being?
where they
Wait,
painted the
hold on.
cows.
Yeah, yeah. Let me show the window. Okay, this is my favorite one. Cows painted with a zebra-like stripe can avoid biting fly attacks. And okay, so the reason I love this paper is actually how well controlled it is. Because if you think about it, and you're like, oh, like how what are the things you would need to do to control for this? Like every time I thought of something that like I was like, oh, they can't control for that. I looked at the paper and they had actually controlled for that.
Yeah,
And
like they
like it
did
was,
control for it.
yeah, they
Yeah.
did really good controls. Okay, so let me just show you. I wanted to show me the cows. Not being slow. Okay, so goodness gracious, show me the date. This is the cow that's painted with black and white stripes. This is a cow that's painted with just black stripes on a black cow, and then this is a cow
Nice.
that's
Mhm.
unpainted. And then they
Oh,
observed
those
it,
are good
and
controls.
then they,
Yeah.
yeah, and they swapped the cows. So like the same cow got all three treatments on different days.
Hmm.
And they observed the flies at different times at all, and they random the observers like did it all three cows like all like they did all of the like I was just like it was blinded, it was like it was just done so nicely. I was like, wow, they did that, okay, cool. And then it was like, what
Hmm.
kind of flies were they? The same kind of flies. They also caught the flies and looked at what species of
Oh,
flies were
nice.
biting
Yeah.
them. It was just done really nice. And then they also like compared like the body to the leg, like different parts of the body parts,
Hmm.
like the flies
So they
biting
could
there
measure the
versus,
effect of the stripes on different body parts.
yeah, and like, and then here's the data. It is so nice. So this is the leg part, I think. The first one, biting flies on the sum of legs and body. And then this is repelling behavior. Frequency of total fly repelling behavior, which is like swishing the tail and stuff. So basically, because the flies were biting less, they did less like tail swishing to like
That
keep the
makes
flies
sense.
away.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so like so this is the group, the control group. This is when they were painted with the black stripes, and then this is in the middle when they got painted with the black and white zebra stripes. So they basically zebra striped and showed that zebra stripes got less biting, and then that because it was less biting, well, I guess not because just the animals also did less like they did a table to show you all the different kinds of behavior. So head throws, air beats, leg stamping, skin twitches, and tail flicks. And they showed so the first column and then the number of times they do that behavior when they're and then the number of times they are when they're striped in black. Basically, and then this is the number of flies that bit that were on their legs and body. And so this is what it's like halved. So control like 86 on average, and then with the stripes like 40. That's halved. On the body 42 down to 15%. Like this is a lot less flies. Like from 40 flies
Like
to
it worked
15
really well.
flies.
Yeah.
It worked really well. And then they talked about how, like, this is one of the biggest problems in animal husbandry because, like, they literally bite the flesh of the cows and give them, like,
Yeah.
sores, and they can get, like,
Diseases. Yeah.
yeah, and, like, how much money it can cause the industry. And then they're like, we probably need to, painting all the cows is probably unfeasible because it's a lot of work to paint the cows and you have to refresh the paint. But perhaps another way to give them stripes could be really protective. Like, it was cool paper. It was so simple. I mean,
Like
it
so
was
like
not
if you
simple to
like
do.
breed cows to be striped. Is that like
Yeah,
what they're suggesting? Or yeah.
yeah. Painting using as like they're saying that like people currently paint them now, but like they don't paint them this extensively. Like this is just like a lot of work to.
Ah.
Oh, and this is crazy. I was like, okay, so maybe like, one cow likes this part of the pasture and more than the other. And they were like, no, they were all pegged to the same ground. They were like all equal distance with like on a chain, like on the peg in the center. It was just done really. I was just like, this is someone
These
really thought really hard about all the
yeah,
controls.
I was gonna say these charts seem much more rigorous than the shoe charts.
It was such a rigorous, and then here's the actual raw data, the original data, like down to like
Nice.
the animal, like the tail flicks, the number, like it's just like I know it's like you just need access to some cows and some poor undergrads to take videography or actually just sit there and count the flies, but like the controls were so good, like the
Yeah,
data
it's a well
collection, like
done
all of
study,
it.
you're saying.
This is a
Yeah.
really well done study. I was like, this is just very solid science. Like
Hmm.
this was followed all the
So
things.
it really
Like
it
every
deserves the Ig Nobel Prize.
I think this deserved the
Yeah.
Ig Nobel
Yeah.
Prize. I was like, okay, of course it's like this Japanese group looking at some Japanese cows, looking at their expensive Wagyu beef cows, that it's worthy.
They're like, how do we protect these from the
Yeah, how do
flies?
we protect the A5 Wagyu? Like they are figuring it out. I really enjoyed that paper. I was just like, I don't do any agriculture work. I like this is not my field at all. But like I was just sat there and I was like, but what about this? And then you just kept reading and then they would have done it. And I was like, oh, but what about that? Controlled. It was just good. It was like sometimes you just really appreciate a paper
Hmm.
for its like
You're just like, wow, yeah, this is a really good paper.
yeah. Apparently flies are less likely to bite cows when they're
Shape
stripped.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then so okay, so the beauty of Ig Nobels is that it sounds kind of like a silly experiment, but then afterwards I was sat here thinking about the visual system of the fly and like why like this like high contrast color could be disruptive to their ability to find the cow,
Yeah, I
like
was
they might
also
not really
wondering about
smell.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what their discussion section was all about, like the polarizing light
Mhm.
and like, and I was just sat there and I was like, a good science paper, a good paper, like it has like clear data, has a cool result, interesting, whatever, but it also makes you think. And this paper did that.
Mhm.
It like guided you all the way through the thing. Um yeah, if I have to teach like high school biology or something, like this is
Like
definitely one of the
experimental
papers.
design, like
Yeah,
use the cow
I
paper. Yep.
exactly. Like I would show this paper. I'll be like, okay, like think of the problem. Like I would give them like, come up with this, you know, and then like this would be like an example of how it's done really well, and I would show them this paper. Yeah, anyway, I thought gushing about some science would be a good way to
Nice.
end the
That was
stream.
fun. Yeah. Yep. Just the last fun one that I really liked is that some researchers saw lizards stealing people's pizza. So these lizards normally eat insects, but they're like but people are like, hey, these lizards came and stole our pizza. So they wanted to do an experiment to see like, do the lizards like pizza, and if so, like what kind of pizza do they like? So they just put like different pizzas on the ground, and then they like watched which ones attracted lizards and if they ate it. And they discovered that lizards do really like pizza, but only four cheese pizza.
Like they didn't like the
I'll,
flesh
I'll put
pizza.
it in the chat. Like, so they used four cheese pizza and also something called Four Seasons pizza, which I don't actually know what it is. But um,
I'm
the
just reading the
lizards had
abstract,
a
and
market. Oh, the lizards. Sorry,
sorry,
that's not the right link. Yeah,
I was
the
reading the
lizards had a
abstract, and they
market.
were in a. Sorry, I was saying it was in a coastal resort town in southern Togo,
Mhm.
West Africa. Okay, sorry. Go
Yep.
ahead, Nate.
Oh yeah. So basically, I was just saying the lizards had a market preference for the four cheese pizza.
What
Um,
in the four cheese pizza is attracting them? Is it like the actual
they don't
cheese
know. I
flavor?
mean, presumably the cheese. But they say like, okay, they think that just for some reason. I mean, they're like, okay, the four cheese pizza has something that attracts the like some chemical that attracts the lizards, which honestly just seems like basically just they're saying like that kind of pizza smells better to lizards. Like I'm like, okay, yeah, that I mean, yeah, that it smells better to me too. Like that like seems basically like they're just saying like they like the taste of it more.
Yeah.
But unlike this extremely controlled one, this paper has only one figure, figure one, which is just pictures of the lizards eating the pizza.
I am frustrated with this paper because it's behind a paywall. I can't read it.
Uh, I put I put in the public chat the second link I put. We'll let you get the paper.
Ah, okay. Let me see if I can download it. Security check required. I am human. Let me in. Um, pizza loving lizards.
Hmm.
That's a good place to stop.
It's weird that this is actually like stronger evidence than the evidence for the Tylenol autism thing.
Yeah, that's just sad.
Like we have stronger evidence that lizards like pizza than that we do that Tylenol causes autism.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is actually a more intricate picture of figure
Hmm.
of them eating the pizza than I realized. So they literally have. Can you see that? Here's
Uh-huh.
uh, let's hide that. Um, there's the lizard, I guess. Lizard.
Hmm.
There's the pizza on the rock, and there's the lizard
Hmm.
getting the pizza and running
Yep.
away with it. And
Yeah. So they're showing
yep,
just like the different frames of it, I guess.
yeah, eating four cheese pizza at a seaside tourist resort. Wow, there's a lot of. I mean, that was a decent number of citations for lizard ate cheese pizza.
Uh-huh.
All monitored
Yeah.
individuals fed upon a same type of pizza suggests they may have some chemical cues attracting them.
Like that
So
is just like a very complicated way of saying like they thought that the cheese pizza smelled better though. Like
it's chemical pizza.
Four Seasons, whatever that is. Um, It's a Italian pizza with artichoke hearts, tomatoes, and fresh basil, mushrooms, and ham.
There, but I think the basil and the herbs were there. They're quite like
Like
herbaceous.
yeah, like tomatoes, basil, mushrooms, artichoke hearts, and then cooked
Oh,
ham
maybe
or
artichokes are also strange. I was gonna say like if they're not plants that they're used to smelling and tasting, they probably want the more boring
right.
flavor.
And apparently, like these lizards naturally eat mostly insects. So I imagine like just like a lot of these things probably just kind of repel them. Like
Yeah.
ham. Like I feel like that like if you're an insect eating lizard, like maybe that just smells like rotten meat and kind of you've evolved not to eat that.
Yeah, that's fair. They monitored it for a long time though. They monitored
Hmm.
for 3 hours. During the sunny time, they included, let's see, 5 adults.
Hmm. So apparently the lizards showed up to eat this pizza like immediately after they put it out too.
Yeah. No, so
Like
apparently the
one of
lizards will eat it from people's, like, off of
hmm
people.
yep.
They'll climb a table and eat it from like a tourist.
Hmm.
And they wanted to know if this behavior was occasional or a usual activity. Like, I mean, that's kind of cool. Like
Yep.
they love it so much they will like get up into human space to get it,
Hmm.
right? Because they're like that's the
Yep.
only way to get it. That is pretty rare for a lizard. Yeah, it's a little sad that this is better done.
Then the Tylenol. Yeah.
Well, at least it's better executed in explanation
Like
for.
I believe this data more than the Tylenol then.
No, I was gonna say
Like
the Tylenol data was fine. Like even with the percentages of higher in the in the kids with autism, it's a correlation, not a causation. Like it
hmm
does it to me, and like even the author said that like it's not a cause, it's a
that's true.
non-causal
Yeah.
correlation,
Like
right?
I guess
Like
I should
two
say
things.
I believe the claim that lizards enjoy eating cheese pizza based on this data more than I believe the claim that Tylenol causes autism based on that data.
I was gonna say, yeah, I believe these lizards love cheese pizza more than Four Seasons cheese pizza.
Yeah.
I agree.
Cheese pizza
Anyway,
causes lizards. Uh,
yeah. And with that, thank you for joining us. We're Philosophisciencing. Have a good day. Take the Tylenol if you're in pain.
yep.